What if I told you that right now, somewhere out there, someone whose soul is quietly tied to yours is feeling something they can't quite explain, not because of anything you said to them, not because of some grand gesture you made, but simply because of who you're becoming. So many of us grow up believing love shows up when someone finally picks us. We wait for the text, the sign, the moment someone says the words that make everything click into place. But what if the real turning point in your love story wasn't about being chosen at all? What if it started the moment you stopped waiting and started changing from the inside out? Something is shifting in you right now, quietly but powerfully, and that shift is sending ripples through every meaningful bond in your life. The version of you who used to second-guess everything, who feared being left behind, who searched outside herself for proof that she mattered, that version is fading. In her place is someone steadier, wiser, and far more herself than she's ever been. And here's the part that might surprise you. The moment you started healing, growing, and honoring your own worth, something began to move. The emotional gap that once felt impossible to close started narrowing. Whatever felt uncertain began finding its footing. And somewhere, someone feels it. They feel your strength. They feel the change in you, and even if they can't quite put their finger on why, their heart is responding. It's because you finally did the one thing that changes everything. You chose yourself. The moment you put yourself first, things started shifting in ways that were almost too subtle to notice at first. For a long time, maybe you believed love, happiness, and a sense of security would only come from someone else, that another person held the key to how worthy you felt. Like a lot of people, you probably spent years paying more attention to what others expected of you than to what you actually needed. You adjusted yourself to fit other people's comfort. You stayed quiet when something hurt. You gave up your own peace just to keep certain relationships from falling apart. Without even realizing it, you were handing your sense of value over to other people and waiting for them to hand it back to you as proof that you mattered. The problem with living that way is that it slowly pulls you away from who you actually are. The more you chase approval from the outside, the quieter your own inner voice becomes. Choosing yourself means letting go of external validation, healing old emotional wounds, trusting your own worth, and protecting your peace. As you heal, you stop chasing acceptance and begin living from self-respect, inner confidence, and authenticity. The tricky part is that unhealed wounds tend to repeat themselves. The mind keeps trying to resolve old, unfinished pain by recreating situations that feel familiar. Without awareness, you can end up living the same emotional story again and again with different people and different circumstances. The faces change, but the feeling stays exactly the same. That cycle only breaks once real healing begins. Healing doesn't mean forgetting what happened, and it doesn't mean pretending the pain wasn't real. It means facing those experiences honestly and understanding how they've shaped the way you see the world. That takes courage, because it means looking directly at feelings you might have spent years avoiding. A lot of people distract themselves from pain by staying constantly busy, clinging to unhealthy attachments, or endlessly searching for something outside themselves to fix how they feel. But real healing starts the moment you're willing to sit with your emotions instead of running from them, to actually listen to what they're trying to tell you. As that process unfolds, something remarkable starts to happen. You begin separating who you are from what happened to you. You realize your painful experiences shaped your beliefs, but they don't define your identity. You start questioning things you once accepted as fact. What happens next is a relationship built not on freedom, but on constant anxiety and uncertainty. Unhealthy attachment is basically the belief that your happiness, your worth, your emotional stability all hinge entirely on one other person. Once that kind of attachment takes hold, every little interaction carries weight it shouldn't. A late reply feels like a threat. A quiet moment feels alarming. A small disagreement feels like the end of the world. Your mind gets stuck trying to control outcomes, predict every move, and hunt for constant reassurance. Instead of actually enjoying the connection, you end up trapped in a state of constant alertness, scanning for signs that everything's still okay. A lot of this comes straight from the subconscious. Fear rarely comes purely from what's happening right now. It's usually tied to older wounds, old disappointments and betrayals that left a lasting mark. Those old experiences quietly convince us that history is bound to repeat itself, and without meaning to, we start viewing new relationships through the lens of old pain. We get attached not just to the person in front of us, but to the hope that they'll finally heal everything that hurt before. That's an enormous weight to place on any relationship. No person can carry the responsibility of fixing your entire emotional history. When you expect someone else to provide total security, total validation, and total fulfillment, disappointment is inevitable. No human being can realistically meet that bar. And once that pressure builds, fear grows stronger, because every little flaw starts to feel like a threat to the stability you've placed entirely in someone else's hands. Letting go of fear and attachment starts with one honest realization. Real security was never going to come from outside yourself. That doesn't mean shutting down emotionally or becoming distant. It means understanding that your peace shouldn't depend entirely on what another person does or doesn't do. You stop measuring your worth by how much attention you're getting. You stop letting every little external moment dictate your emotional state. You start building a relationship with yourself that holds steady even when things around you feel uncertain. As that shift takes root, something else happens. Your need to control everything starts to fade. You stop feeling like you have to force outcomes or chase reassurance constantly. Instead of gripping tightly, you start learning to trust in yourself, in your own resilience, in your ability to handle whatever comes your way, and trust in the natural unfolding of relationships. That trust brings real freedom, because it lifts the constant pressure of needing everything to go exactly as planned. People often misread what letting go actually means. They assume it's the same as giving up or not caring anymore. But letting go really means caring without gripping too tightly. It means loving without trying to possess. It means appreciating a connection without needing to control every part of it. There's real strength in that, because it gives relationships room to breathe and grow the way they're supposed to. Real intimacy grows in freedom, not in fear. Your person feels this shift too, on a level deeper than conversation. When fear stops running the show, your presence becomes calmer, more genuine. You're not chasing proof of love anymore, because you're no longer operating from a place of lack. Instead, you bring confidence, trust, and emotional maturity into the connection. That creates a completely different kind of energy, one that feels safe instead of demanding, open instead of restrictive, real instead of desperate. Letting go of attachment also frees up space for personal growth. All that energy you used to spend worrying, overthinking, and grasping for certainty becomes available for self-discovery, creativity, purpose, and real development. You start actually living in the present because your attention isn't trapped by fear of tomorrow anymore. Life stops feeling like a struggle to control outcomes and starts feeling like an experience to be lived, moment by moment, with real awareness and acceptance. Once fear loosens its hold and unhealthy attachment fades, love takes on a different shape entirely. It becomes less about possession and more about connection, less about need and more about appreciation, less about anxiety and more about trust. Your heart stops reaching outward in desperation and starts opening naturally, from a place of quiet courage and wholeness, and that's exactly the kind of space where something deeper and more meaningful can finally grow. Becoming emotionally honest with yourself is one of the most important steps in any real transformation, because it means you finally stop hiding from your own truth. So many of us spend years presenting a version of ourselves we think other people will accept. We learn to bury certain feelings, hide certain fears, and only show the parts we think will earn approval. Eventually, that becomes so automatic, we lose touch with what we're actually feeling underneath it all. We get good at wearing masks, but those masks quietly create a kind of emptiness because they block real connection, both with other people and with ourselves. From a young age, we're all handed countless messages about who we're supposed to be, how to act, which emotions are okay to show, and which parts of ourselves should stay hidden. As a result, a lot of people get used to pushing uncomfortable feelings down. Anger gets buried because it seems inappropriate. Sadness gets hidden because it feels like weakness. Fear gets denied because it feels embarrassing. Even joy and excitement can get held back if we're afraid of being judged for feeling too much. These habits might offer short-term protection, but over time they create a real gap between who you show the world and who you actually are underneath. And whatever gets buried doesn't just disappear. It keeps quietly shaping your thoughts, your reactions, and your relationships from somewhere below conscious awareness. You might feel disconnected without knowing why. You might notice the same emotional patterns showing up over and over, or feel tension in relationships simply because you're not expressing what's actually true for you. Keeping up a false image takes real effort, and eventually it becomes exhausting, leaving you feeling unseen even when you're surrounded by people. Real emotional honesty starts when you find the courage to acknowledge what's actually happening inside you. That takes real honesty. It means noticing your feelings without immediately judging them. Instead of pretending everything's fine, you let yourself admit when something hurts. Instead of denying your fear, you acknowledge it's there. Instead of hiding your disappointment, you let it be part of your story. That kind of honesty builds a deeper relationship with yourself because you're no longer fighting against your own reality. As that awareness grows, self-acceptance naturally follows. You start understanding that your emotions aren't enemies you need to defeat. They're messages worth listening to. Every feeling is carrying information about your needs, your values, your experiences, your inner world. When you stop rejecting parts of yourself, you become more whole. All the energy that used to go into hiding and pretending is suddenly free to fuel real growth and self-understanding. This shift changes the way you interact with everyone around you. People who are emotionally honest communicate differently. They don't rely on manipulation or constant people-pleasing to get their needs met. They express themselves clearly because they actually know what they feel. Their words and actions start to line up. There's less internal conflict, less confusion, more consistency between how they feel inside and how they show up outside. People are naturally drawn to that kind of authenticity because it builds trust. Most of us can sense when someone is showing a carefully curated version of themselves rather than the real thing. Authenticity feels different. It feels grounded, honest, real. It allows for deeper connection, because relationships only become truly meaningful when people let each other see who they really are. Your person feels this shift profoundly. They're not connecting with a mask or some polished version of you built to earn approval. They're connecting with the real you underneath all of that. That's what creates a stronger bond, because being genuine tends to invite genuine in return. When one person finds the courage to be real, it often gives the other person permission to lower their guard too. As emotional honesty grows, the fear of judgment starts losing its power over you. You care less about meeting every expectation and more about living in line with your own truth. Your decisions start reflecting your real values instead of outside pressure. Relationships start being built on honesty instead of performance. The need to constantly prove yourself fades because you're no longer trying to keep a false identity intact. The most meaningful bonds in life rarely come from perfection. They come from letting yourself be seen exactly as you are. Strengths, vulnerabilities, hopes, and flaws all together. Emotional honesty lays the groundwork for that kind of connection by trading illusion for truth and performance for real presence. Learning to trust the process is one of the hardest lessons anyone has to learn, because the human mind naturally craves certainty. It wants clear answers, predictable outcomes, guarantees about what's coming next. And when it comes to love and relationships, that need for certainty tends to get even stronger. People want to know exactly when something will happen, how it will happen, and whether their effort is even going to pay off. But life almost never follows a perfectly organized script. So much of what shapes our path comes through unexpected turns, challenges, delays, and opportunities that couldn't have been predicted ahead of time. For a lot of people, not being able to control that uncertainty creates real anxiety. They get stuck overanalyzing every situation, searching for signs, trying to force clarity where there simply isn't any yet. That constant mental effort usually comes from fear, not wisdom. Underneath the need to control everything is often a deeper worry that things might not work out the way we hope. The mind convinces itself that if it just thinks hard enough, plans carefully enough, or watches closely enough, it can somehow protect itself from disappointment. But too much control creates resistance instead of security. Rather than letting life unfold naturally, a person can get trapped in a loop of overthinking and tension, spending so much energy worrying about the future that they lose touch with what's happening right now. Chances for growth, joy, and self-discovery slip by unnoticed because attention stays locked on outcomes that haven't even arrived yet. Trusting the process doesn't mean checking out or giving up on responsibility. It doesn't mean abandoning your goals or refusing to take action. It means recognizing where your control actually ends. You can absolutely shape your path through your choices and effort, but you can't control every person, every event, every circumstance. Some things simply require patience, openness, and a willingness to trust a process that takes time to unfold. As that kind of trust develops, your whole relationship with uncertainty starts to shift. Instead of seeing every delay as failure, you start seeing it as preparation. Instead of reading every obstacle as proof you're on the wrong path, you start recognizing that challenges often carry important lessons. Experiences that once felt pointless start to reveal deeper meaning when you look at them from further away. This shift changes something fundamental inside you. Fear loses its grip because trust creates real emotional stability. You no longer feel like you have to control every outcome just to feel okay. You build genuine confidence in your ability to adapt, to learn, and to keep growing no matter what comes your way. And that confidence isn't rooted in knowing the future. It's rooted in knowing yourself. Your person feels this shift too, because trust changes the entire energy you bring into any relationship. Someone who's constantly trying to force an outcome tends to broadcast anxiety, pressure, urgency. Someone who trusts the process brings calm, patience, and quiet confidence instead. Their presence feels completely different because it's no longer dictated by fear of what might happen. This shift also makes room for something deeper to grow because relationships thrive when they're allowed to unfold naturally instead of being managed through expectation and demand. Trust invites openness because it removes the constant need for reassurance about the future. It lets people actually appreciate what's happening right now instead of getting consumed by what might come later. As trust deepens, life starts feeling less like a fight against uncertainty and more like an unfolding process of discovery. Every experience, whether it feels good or hard in the moment, becomes part of a bigger story of growth. The focus shifts from trying to control every chapter to actually learning from each one as it comes, creating a kind of steadiness that holds even when the future hasn't shown its next move yet. Getting in alignment with a deeper sense of purpose isn't about suddenly uncovering one grand mission that explains your entire existence. It's a slower process of getting closer to the most honest, most authentic parts of who you are. A lot of people spend their lives following external expectations, chasing goals because society tells them to, following paths because others approve of them, making decisions based on what looks successful from the outside. Those pursuits might bring short bursts of satisfaction, but they often leave behind a nagging sense that something important is still missing. Deep down, every person has a longing for real meaning, and when that longing gets ignored long enough, you start feeling disconnected from yourself, no matter how much you accomplish on paper. A deeper sense of purpose starts to surface when you begin paying real attention to what actually resonates with you. This usually happens during periods of reflection, hardship, or personal change. Difficult seasons have a way of forcing us to question old assumptions and rethink the direction we're heading. You start asking bigger questions: who you really are, what actually matters to you, how you want to show up in the world. Those questions pull your focus away from outside validation and back toward your own inner truth. This kind of journey is almost never a straight line. The mind tends to resist change because familiar patterns feel safe even when they've stopped serving you. You might feel torn between what's expected of you and what actually feels meaningful. And that tension exists because part of you longs for authenticity while another part is still chasing approval and security. Real growth happens when you gradually find the courage to follow what feels true instead of what simply feels comfortable. Decisions get easier because they're guided by your values instead of your fears. Instead of asking what will impress other people, you start asking what actually reflects who you are. Your actions start lining up with your beliefs, and that consistency builds real self-respect and quiet confidence. This kind of alignment affects your emotional well-being in powerful ways. A lot of anxiety shows up when people live in ways that contradict their deeper values, ignoring important desires, silencing real dreams, staying in situations that have long since stopped supporting their growth. Over time, that creates frustration and emotional burnout. But once you start living closer to your purpose, a lot of that internal conflict begins to dissolve. Energy that used to go toward maintaining a life that wasn't fully yours becomes available for creativity, passion, learning, and meaningful contribution. Purpose also reshapes how you experience relationships. People who feel disconnected from themselves often look to others to define their identity and give them direction, becoming dependent on outside approval because they haven't built a strong enough connection with their own values yet. But someone who's aligned with their purpose brings a real sense of wholeness into their relationships. They're not looking for someone else to complete them. They're sharing their life from a place of genuine self-awareness and stability. Your person feels the effects of this shift because purpose touches every part of how you show up in the world. There's a noticeable difference between someone drifting through life without any real direction and someone who feels calm, connected, and rooted in something meaningful. Purpose brings clarity, confidence, and authenticity. It gives you a quiet strength that doesn't depend on circumstances or anyone else's approval. As you keep aligning more closely with your deeper purpose, your actions, thoughts, and values start working together instead of pulling in different directions, and that harmony creates a kind of balance other people can genuinely feel. Growth here isn't just measured by achievements or outside success. It's measured by the growing closeness between who you really are and how you choose to live each day. In that alignment, the deeper parts of who you are finally get room to show up, letting your life reflect the qualities that were waiting inside you all along. As we get to the end of this, one thing becomes really clear. The shift your person feels isn't happening because you chased love harder, waited longer, or tried to reshape yourself into someone else. It's happening because you finally turned inward and started the most important relationship of your life, the one with yourself. You chose yourself first. You healed wounds that used to run the show behind the scenes. You let go of fear and the kind of attachment that was never healthy to begin with. You learned to be honest with yourself instead of hiding behind a mask. You learned to trust the process instead of trying to force every outcome. And most importantly, you got closer to a deeper sense of purpose and meaning. Every one of those shifts created something powerful in your inner world. The person you're becoming is more aware, more grounded, more authentic, and more connected to who they really are. And that transformation isn't just changing how you experience your own life, it's changing how other people experience you too. Your person feels this growth because real connection always starts before a single word gets spoken. It starts somewhere deeper than that. Every lesson you learned, every hard season you made it through, every step you took toward understanding yourself better has brought you closer to the love, peace, and fulfillment you've been looking for. Remember this: the most attractive thing about a person was never perfection. It's wholeness. The greatest gift was never someone else's approval. It's self-acceptance. And the most important journey was never really about finding someone else. It was always the journey back to yourself. As you keep moving forward, trust what you're becoming, honor the path you're on, and never underestimate the power of the person you're turning into. Thank you for spending this time here. If any of this landed for you, let it be a reminder that your growth is quietly creating good things in your life, even the parts you can't fully see yet. Wishing you strength for whatever's next, clarity for the choices ahead, peace through the uncertain moments, and love that finally reflects the worth you've carried inside you the whole time. May your path keep unfolding with new opportunities, deeper understanding, and connections that actually mean something. Take care of yourself, keep moving forward, and I'll see you again soon.